Hey, it's Tim here. In 21.4, Tableau have brought along two features, virtual connections and centralized row-level security. In this video, I'm going to touch on virtual connections. Centralized row-level security is a topic of its own, so I'll cover that in the next video after this one. Now, the great thing about this is it allows you to create a connection on server that you can then democratize through your organization. It works very similar to something like a published data source, except for this is nothing like a published data source. This is its own thing, its own completely different type of asset in Tableau, and it allows you to essentially create a connections and apply row-level security to it and policies as well to it, and then move that onto a folder or a project, put it in a collection, connect to it in desktop, set it up in a web edit video. It's basically the dream connection you could possibly create with Tableau. It does require the data management add-on, but nonetheless, let's find out how this works. So I'm going to go here to the new button here, and you'll see that the option there is virtual connections. When we do that, it does open it in a new window for me, so I'll bring it onto screen so you can see. Now, when I scroll down this list, you'll see there's a few data sources, and if you can't see the one that you need in here, it's a good sign that Tableau is calling out the developers that are building this, and currently it's just a list of Tableau essentially. So it's a good hint that other people will be making these connections in the future. So if you can't see what you need here, then petition Tableau or go to the Tableau exchange where no doubt these connectors will live, and you should be able to sort of start using this once connected apps and all of this stuff starts to roll out. Now, if I go ahead and select Snowflake, I'm going to connect to a Snowflake instance here to do this. In a previous video, I showed you how to set up this demo database for this particular use case. So for this one, we're just going to set up the virtual connection. I'm going to connect to it in desktop and web edit and show you how it all works. But for now, let's go ahead and let me type in my details. I'll switch to the authentication page after I've typed in all my details here because I want to keep those secret. Okay, so I've logged in here. Everything's working. I'll close my password manager down, and you can see that we've set up the connection part of the virtual connection. Now, the next thing I need to do specifically for Snowflake is choose a warehouse, select a database. This is going to be the Tableau demo database. And you can see here on the left-hand side that once it's loaded up the data tables in this particular connection, just give it a second to connect. You'll see that here we have employees, invoices, and orders. These are the tables that I set up in the previous video. Now, what's cool about this is you can also use a custom SQL connection as well, like you can normally do in Tableau Desktop as well. So that's something to be aware of. I'll select all three because what I want to do is enable users to be able to create a relationship between these three data sources. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how row-level security works using one of these tables, the employees table, as an entitlement table. But nonetheless, let's drag all three into the view and you can see that they drop in. Now, the nice thing here is you get some metadata about these tables. The table name, the visibility, this is a feature within the virtual connections that allows you to hide or show them when a user connects to them. I'll show you what this means a little later on. The database that it's coming from, the schema in the database, whether the data is live or as an extract, you can change that for all these connections, or you can change it for each connection one at a time. So be absolutely sort of clear about what you want that to do, generally speaking. Now, the data policy, we have none at the moment. That will be in the next video. And then you've got the original table name. This is nothing new. Now, one thing I didn't realize when I started playing around with this is that there's a whole other section down here, and it's not obvious that you can sort of drag this up. So if you just hover your mouse over that sort of bottom lip, you'll see that you can then drag this up and you get the table sort of coming through. So now this is got a bit more space. This is really nice. I really wish that what they did is if you put three tables in, it just moved this up to sort of match the three tables like this. So you didn't have a scroll bar, but you could immediately see that you had some metadata here to view. That would be a really nice sort of addition to the feature. Now, if I go to this little section here, you can see that I have these Tableau prep-like icons here. And actually, this is good to see. Tableau are bringing some things we've asked for from Tableau Prep into the connection experience for virtual connections. I think this has been a big ask. I personally don't agree with that sort of way of thinking. Maybe that's another video. But nonetheless, the feature's here. And so you can see when I click on this table view, I get a tabular view of this particular table. Now, if I switch from employees to invoices, this preview will change. I'll let it load first, and you can see that actually happening. There you go. We've got the employees table there. And you can see here that everything is pretty nicely set up. Now, what I did in the SQL statement when I was loading the data into Snowflake is I actually changed one of the usernames here to match my name, because for row level security, this has got to work. So Laura over here in Seattle was the unfortunate candidate. I actually changed her full name to match mine, Tim Nguyen, and that's because that's the name that I've actually got on Tableau server for the row level security to work. So we'll come back to that a little later on. But nonetheless, if I go over to invoices, you'll see that again, we load up a preview at 2,155 rows of the data set. So everything is working as expected. This is sort of doing the right job. And again, you can see there that I have the salesperson name in there. So everything is working fine. The connection's good. Now it comes to sort of actually saving them and making them sort of available to users. Well, there's a save button up here and there's a publish button up here. Now, I kind of got fooled into this when I first used this. The save button actually saves a draft. And it's sort of a different behavior. So when I click save here, you'll see that it says saved draft virtual connection. But when I hit publish, that is actually when the change is made. So you can now see it's asking me where to save this. So this is what you want to make sure you do. Publish saves the actual details, and save saves the draft. It's kind of a weird sort of meta, but nonetheless, that's just the way it is. I'm wondering if that will change in the future. Maybe the draft could be automatically saved and then you can just hit publish once and that can be it. But nonetheless, that's now saved. The virtual connection is available. If I go back to my list, you can see that Snowflake is now available here. And if I click on that, I'll actually get the 3 tables available. So this virtual connection is set up, it's ready to be used, and we can start using it. I'm going to show you how to do that next. Now, I know most of you are using Tableau Desktop still. WebEdit is picking up pace. I can't tell you enough. Really start using WebEdit. You'll be surprised that some parts are actually getting to feature parity with Tableau Desktop. But if you're still using Desktop, that's absolutely fine. Let me show you how to connect to that virtual connection. Now, what you have to remember is that this is a server-based connection. So you have to go to the top here and select Tableau Server. I'm actually already logged in. And what I can do is I can go down to this drop-down and immediately select virtual connection. You can see that this connection is already here. I can select connect, and when we do that, we get the 3 tables. So at this point, the server is actually sort of using my access and delegating access to this virtual connection, and this virtual connections comes with these 3 tables. So me as a user, I'm now empowered to go ahead and create my own data model, and I can actually go in here and bring the invoices in. For this particular one, I know this should be employee ID. Let's go ahead and actually match those 2 up. So you can actually see this working. Let's bring in orders and let's do exactly the same thing, employee ID, and let's get that working as well. So that's a virtual connection pretty much set up. I can go to sheet 1 and there we have it. The virtual connection is working inside of Tableau Desktop. I can start working with it. In the next video, we'll look at row level security. So we'll save this workbook and keep it available for that demo. But nonetheless, we've seen pretty much everything you need to see here in terms of connecting to a virtual connection. Now, what is interesting is that it doesn't come up as a published data source, as a server-based connection. It's got a standard connection here. So you've got this sort of a database icon. So what's actually happening here is that the user is first going off to Tableau server, and then from Tableau server is managing the permissions and then passing on that live connection over to Snowflake or whatever. And so that's a really important sort of mechanic to be aware of. I think these icons need sort of a bit of an update, because I would still expect to see the server icon here so a user knows where to go and debug this. Because of course, if I right click on this and I select edit data source and I go in here, you'll see that it actually gives me the edit connection, and it's going to throw a bug here because essentially I need to go and do this over on the server. It's not going to sort of be working over here. So it's like a really interesting sort of challenge here that I think Tableau have to kind of keep everything consistent. Maybe this is sort of a launch bug, maybe it's because I'm using the pre-release version here, but nonetheless I would expect sort of that visual icon use to be consistent. So if I'm connecting to server to use a virtual connection, I would hope to see a server icon there. But nonetheless, this is working fine. Now let me head back to the area that I was in before. In fact, let me head back to this browser window here, because you can see everything is still set up. Now, one of the nice things you can do is, of course, you can make something hidden for a temporary period. So in this case, I'm going to hit publish. Now the invoices table is hidden, but I can still work on this. I can still now make it available and hit save. And now I'm saving the draft. It's not yet been published. I can test something, make sure everything works. And then when I'm done, I can go ahead ahead, hit publish, and now the virtual connection's up to date. This allows you to come back to a virtual connection and edit it over time, add data policies and centralized row level security policies to it over time as well. So these things are going to have longevity, and unlike other connections, they're not going to die a death because there's actually some weight behind these, and hopefully they'll start to collect the metadata that people have always wanted. Now, the last place I'll show you how to use this is, of course, web edit. So how do we do this? Well, let's go to the 21.4 folder here, and let's just go ahead and create a new workbook. Now, when we create a new workbook, of course, it's web edit. We do exactly the same thing. Select virtual connection, select Snowflake Connect. And now we're back in here. We've got the web edit version of this. We can go ahead, drag in the employees table, and we can essentially do the same thing as we did before. There's nothing really new here, but nonetheless, this is how it works. People always ask for these things. If I don't cover it, someone will say, hey, you didn't show us how to do it. So here I am. So there we go. That's the connection setup. Super simple, exactly the same thing. We've got web edit here. We've got desktop over here, the exact same setup. And that's pretty much virtual connections for you. So thanks for watching. Check out the next video on centralized row level security to see how that works. That's a bit more of a complicated video, but I think you're going to like it. So check it out. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.